Hello, this is Yandtech. Today we are going to be looking at another interesting video when it comes to Azure Cloud Computing. So today we are going to be looking at how to install Nginx on Linux using Cloud-Init. There are different ways in which we can use to install packages on a Linux virtual machine. So we are going to be looking at one of the methods known as Cloud-Init. So before looking at how to install Nginx, making use of Cloud-Init in a Linux virtual machine, let us first of all have an understanding of what is Azure Virtual Machine and also an overview of Cloud-Init. So Azure Virtual Machine is an on-demand, scalable computing resource that Azure offers. So typically, you choose a virtual machine when you need more control over the computing environment. So Azure Virtual Machine gives you the flexibility of virtualization without having to buy and maintain the physical hardware that runs it. So, however, you still need to maintain the virtual machine by performing tasks such as configuring, patching, and installation or installing the software that runs on it. Now, let's look at the overview of Cloud-Init. So, Cloud-Init basically is widely used to customize a Linux virtual machine as it boot for the first time. So you can actually use Cloud-Init to install packages or to configure users and security. So Cloud-Init also runs through the initial boot process. So there are no additional steps or required agents to install your configuration. So Cloud-Init works across distributions. For example, you don't use, we do not actually make use of the apt-get install when it comes to Ubuntu or the yum install when it comes to CentOS, RPM when it comes to Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So instead, you can define a list of packages to install. So Cloud-Init automatically uses the native package management tool for distro. So we are going to look at how to install a package in our Linux virtual machine, making use of Cloud-Init. So in this lab, we are going to create a Linux virtual machine with Nginx deployed on it and making use of Cloud-Init. Then we are going to connect to the virtual machine, and then we are going to verify if Nginx has been installed. Now let's go into the lab. I'm signed into the Azure portal. In the Azure portal, we are going to create a virtual machine. So I am going to search for virtual machine. I'm going to create a new virtual machine. So I'm going to click on create a virtual machine. So in this virtual machine, I'm going to create a resource group just for this lab, knowing too well that a resource group is a container for resources. So I'm going to click on create new. I'm going to give the name init-resource group. Then I'm going to click on OK. Then I'm going to give the name of the virtual machine as init-vm for virtual machine. The region is US. The availability zone, I'm going to change to no infrastructure. Then the image, I'm going to make use of Ubuntu server. The size, I will use the B2MS. Then for the authentication type, I'm going to select password. I'm going to define the name as Yandtech. Then I'm going to define the password. I'm going to confirm the password. Under the public inbound port, I'm going to make use of SSH, which is actually used to connect to a Linux virtual machine. Since in this lab, we are going to install an Nginx web server, so we need port 80 to be allowed as well. So I'm going to click on the drop arrow under the select inbound port. I'm going to click on the drop arrow and I'm going to check the box for HTTP port 80. Then I'm going to click on next, the disk. I'm going to change the OS disk type from a premium SSD to standard SSD. Then I'll click on networking, where a virtual network is going to be created, a subnet, a public IP. I'm going to leave this page by default. I'll click on next, management, or leave it as default. I'll click on next, the monitoring, or leave it as default. Then I'll go to advanced. Now, under the advanced is where we are going to do this next phase, important phase of the lab, where we have the custom data and Cloud-Init. So under the custom data, I'm going to paste this. I'm going to paste this YAML formatted cloud config file. So this file, actually, the first thing is the cloud config. And this cloud config is just basically a directive indicating that the file is a cloud config file. So Cloud-Init, a widely used tool actually for initializing cloud instances. Then we have the second, which is actually the package upgrade true. And these directives tells the Cloud-Init to upgrade all installed packages to their latest version. Then we have the packages, which is actually the packages to be installed on the system. And then we have the package that we want to install in the system. We have Nginx, all right? And Nginx specify that the Nginx server package should be installed. We have different applications that we can follow the Cloud-Init. If I want to go further to install something like, let's say Apache, I will just go to the next line and I will do Apache. I will define the package. So I will do Apache 2. I can go further to example. Let me say we want to install Tomcat. I'm going to do the Tomcat 9, Tomcat version 9. Okay, so this is the Cloud-Init. Very simple to install packages. But in this lab, we are focusing more on Nginx. So I'm going to make use of Nginx. So I'm going to copy this. I'll go back to my lab. Under the custom data, I'm going to paste it. Once you have pasted the data, you go ahead and you click on review plus create. Once the validation is passed, click on create. Some few minutes for the deployment to complete. Once the deployment is complete, we are going to now connect into the virtual machine and verify if Nginx has been installed. All right, deployment is complete. So I will click on go to resource. Here we have our Linux virtual machine. Under the properties, you see we have the virtual machine running Linux. Version 2, we have networking, where we have the public IP address and the private IP address. I am going to make use of the public IP address in order to connect to the virtual machine But for us, in another way to connect to the virtual machine, I can scroll down to the left under help. I'm going to have the serial console. With the serial console, I can also verify if Nginx has been installed. Let's wait for the console to come up. Once the console is up, we are going to verify if Nginx has been installed into the virtual machine. So I'm going to log in with my username and my password. There we go. So for us to verify if Nginx has been installed, I'm going to type the name of the package, Nginx, then I'll verify the version. There we go. So you see, by using Cloud-Init and by defining the data in the course of creating the virtual machine, we install the Nginx uh, web server. So this is Nginx. It has been installed. So Nginx has been installed. In another way, I can go to network setting as we did. We open up port 80, that is the HTTP. So I can actually copy my public IP address since as port 80 is actually allowed, and this virtual machine is actually running as a web server. So if I take this to my browser, open a tab on my browser, and I paste the IP address and I press enter, then we are going to see the default web page for Nginx. Welcome to Nginx. So in this video, we have successfully created a Linux virtual machine by deploying the Nginx web server, making use of Cloud-Init. So hey, if you want to stick around for more awesome content like this, be sure to smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you will never miss an upload. So we are actually building an amazing community here in Yandtech, and I would love for you to be part of it. Also, feel free to leave a comment down below with any thought, questions, and suggestions for future videos. I would love hearing from you guys, and I read every single comment. Thanks again for watching.